Welcome to the course. Welcome to Coaching the Life Coach, where we're going to turn your practice into a business. And so let's drop right in. And the course is divided into modules. And in this particular module, there's going to be several sections. And in this section, we're going to talk about what it takes, and we're going to talk about how to set goals and setting some goals and some outcomes for this course. And really, I want you to relate to this like your introduction and foundation for the entire course. And that's what we're going to call Module 1. So first, let's talk about what it actually takes to build a six-figure business, or what it takes to turn your practice into a business. And so let's talk about what it takes. And part of this will be demystifying some of the overwhelm that a lot of people think about, and some of it's just going to be telling you what the primary components are. And when I talk about building and maintaining a six-figure coaching or holistic practice, what I really mean when I say six figures is essentially, breaking that $100,000 barrier, or up to $250,000 annually. Now, some of you who are making even more than that, there's going to be a few ideas in here which you'll get to create even more income for yourself. Because every smart business person knows that all it takes is one good idea to increase your revenues by tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, if implemented well. And this is primarily targeted for people who, we're trying to get you from wherever you are to somewhere between $100,000 and $250,000 annually. So that's what I mean by six figures. So what does it take? Here's what it takes. First, you must be a living example of the work that you do. And what I mean mostly by this is, if your relationships are always in turmoil, please don't be coaching people on relationships. Have a wonderful relationship. If you're a financial coach, please have, your finances in order, and also be well on your way to retiring early. If you're, coaching people on weight loss, please don't be, morbidly obese. It sounds simple, it sounds easy, but, at the same time, there's still a lot of people out there who have all these things, and they know how, they really do know how to effectively help people in those areas, but they don't have their own house in order. But to maintain a practice, you have to be walking your own talk. It's my belief that in the integral age, this is no longer going to be optional. Next is have a comprehensive offering or series of sessions. When we get to creating that, we'll talk about why and how that serves the client. And have a sales system, and a formalized referral system is part of that, or multiple formalized referral systems. And, also use that. And then finally, provide free, accessible value. And that could look like, a blog. It could look like free events or talks or evening introductions. It could be a podcast. It could be all of that. And there's a few reasons for that. And we'll get in again to the why. But really, those are the things that it takes to build and maintain a six-figure practice. And you may be curious if that is it. Is that all? Is it really that simple? Yes, it's actually that simple. And it's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. This course will make it far, far easier for you, because we're going to take you step by step through everything that you need to do to create and maintain all of that. And I'm going to endeavor to make it as simple as possible for you, as accessible as possible for you. And bear in mind that I've made more mistakes than you could ever hope for or hope to. And that's the only reason that this course is being created, is because I've made mistakes, and I would love for you to avoid them. And so, there is one more thing. And this is one of those things that sort of operates in the background. And this one thing, it's not critical, but it will be very helpful to you. And you can do it now, or you could do it later. And some of you may not know it. Some of you may already know it. But I'll explain how and why it's helpful to you when we get there. But for now, rather than hold you in suspense, that one thing is to distinguish or unearth or declare your life purpose. If you prefer your spiritual purpose, what that really means is the why of what you do. For what purpose? To what ultimate end? Another way to think about it is this. What is your ultimate concern? What is the largest process you're contributing to? But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about what it takes to build and maintain a six-figure practice, the nuts and bolts of the business in actual numbers. All you need to do, and this is where most people go, really? All you need to do is sign 2.5 clients per month to a comprehensive extended offering. And within 6 months, you will be well on your way to a six-figure income. You'll be, in what they say in the language of business and economics, you'll be a run rate for a six-figure business. 2.5 clients per month to a comprehensive extended offering, which will help you design. And within 6 months, you'll be well on your way to a six-figure income. This program will walk you through step by step through everything you need to do and how to do it with great efficacy. And it will be my pleasure to be your guide on this path, to assist you in integrating your purpose and your prosperity. And so it begins. Let's set some outcomes for you in this course. So pause the video now and get a pen and paper, or open a Word doc or a Google Doc or whatever it is you may use. But make sure it's not, simply notes on your phone or on your iPad, or make sure it's something that's either in the cloud or something that's a significant document for you, something you'll refer back to. It could be a database, it could be anything, but make sure it's something that's durable. So go ahead and pause the video now, get a pen and paper if you prefer, or open up whatever document you prefer to set some outcomes for this course. Great. So welcome back. So, outcomes. Part of me, I've never really liked the word goals. It's so two-dimensional. And, there's this whole set of thinking and set of emotions around goals. I really like outcomes, but let's just sum this up very quickly for you. Really, just what do you want? What do you want to get from this course? What do you want to achieve through this? I said it differently. Standing 4 or 5 months from now in your future, what have you already achieved by that date? So if you pretend that you're standing 4 or 5 months from now into the future, what has already been achieved? And here are the criteria for a well-formed outcome. It must be stated in positive language. It must be measurable. It must be achievable. It must be, in other words, realistic. It must be responsible. And it must be set in time. So first of all, I just want you to notice that that means something very specific. It's a specific date. And also notice that that is a SMART goal. I've heard that other people, many people use SMART goals. This is what I mean by SMART goals when we talk about that, or SMART outcomes. And it's a well-formed outcome. These are the conditions or criteria which has it be simply more likely that you'll achieve it. It makes it, the probabilities are dramatically increased if these conditions are such that they're in the outcome the way you've languaged it. So here's an example of a SMART outcome as well as a well-formed outcome. For instance, by January 15th, 2011, I will have a growing practice with at least 10 clients, or whatever number you want that you think is realistic. But notice a specific date. That means month, day, and year. Before we go any further, though, I do want to talk about these. Now, you may have been trained in a particular way. Some of this may be old hat for you. Some of it may be revolutionary for you. Some of it may be just stated in a way that you prefer. Maybe you learned it in one way, but you like this language a little bit better. Or maybe you learned it in even a better way. But let's just go through this just to be sure, make sure I'm serving you fully, and going through the outcome criteria, the SMART goal criteria. So stated in positive language. Now, a lot of times, whether it's yourself or whether it's a client coming to you, people are often going to say, "Well, I want to stop doing blank," which is fine. It's useful information. It tells you what the presenting problem is. It also, unfortunately, doesn't tell you what you actually want. And as you all know, I'm sure at this point, we can help you get something that you do want, but we can't help you get what you don't want. So there has to be something that you're actually looking towards. And of course, the metaphor is, don't think of a pink elephant right now. And of course, your mind only thinks about a pink elephant. And your reticular activator system will go into effect and find that pink elephant for you. So, stated in positive language, what do you want rather than what you don't want? For those of you interested in advanced communication linguistics with your clients, I have little tricks and tools for very gently moving that towards something that's stated in the positive language. But the first thing, it must be stated in the positive language. Second is, it must be measurable. Now, we're going to go through this, but for the most part, that must be something you can either see, feel, hear, smell, taste. It could be a sensation, it could be a number, but it must be measurable. It must be achievable or realistic. Now, this one's tricky because a lot of people sell themselves short. So many people sell themselves short. And what realistic is something that we haven't explored nearly as much as far out as we could explore it. But the example I like to give is if a client came to me who's 50 and said, I want to win Wimbledon this year. That's great. It's stated in the positive language. It's certainly measurable. I mean, winning Wimbledon, it's measurable in multiple ways, right? Is it achievable or realistic? Well, first of all, nobody over 30 has ever won Wimbledon. Well, that's fine. I mean, things happen. Records are shattered. Beliefs are shattered. But if they've never played tennis before, right? They're not even a professional. Well, then we have to, check in on the realistic aspect of it. So we want to stretch, but we don't want to break, and we don't want it to be unachievable, especially if it ends up triggering self-esteem issues. Responsible, what I mean by that is it's good for you, it's good for your system, which means your family, your community, your friends. It's also good for the world at large. For instance, we could have this horrible outcome stated in positive language that's measurable, achievable, and realistic, would not be responsible. We could say, hey, I'd like to dump a bunch of toxic waste into the ocean. And I'd like, to do it with a certain amount of, number of metric tons of toxic waste. Well, that's stated in the positive. It's measurable, right? You can weigh it. You can, it's certainly achievable with the right delivery system, the right vehicle. It certainly wouldn't be responsible, though, and it's not something any of us would want to support. And then, of course, set in time. The thing about time, it's very tricky when we get to your unconscious organization of time in the personal work module. If we say, well, we want to, achieve it within 2 months, but, unconsciously, because your unconscious mind is amazingly strong, it's also not very nuanced in terms of its intelligence. I like to think of it as it's like a mutant 3-year-old, incredibly strong. It can bench press 150 pounds for you if you want, only at 2 or 3 years old. But it's not very smart. So strong, but dumb, does only exactly what you tell it to without figuring anything out. So set in time, if you say, well, it's right around the corner or in 2 months, it's kind of always in 2 months from today. So we want to make sure it's a specific time, day, and year. You could even add a time of day to it. There have been times where, working with clients, I have set an outcome with them where it's by a certain day of the week, a certain day of the month, a certain year, but also we say by midnight. For instance, by midnight, on January 15th, 2012, we'll have achieved blah 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 blah. So that's the criteria in review. In review and of course in full. So let's get to your outcomes. So your outcomes. Go ahead and pause the video now and create at least 3 outcomes now for yourself in this course. Now make sure you have the evidence written down as well. In other words, what would your evidence be as an observer looking down on yourself? What would prove to you that these outcomes had in fact been achieved? In other words, how many clients would you have, or will you have, or do you have as you stand in the future looking back? What results are you producing in the lives of others? How much money are you making? What are people saying about you? What are you seeing in clients' faces? What are you seeing? And that could be your bank accounts. It could be the color in somebody's face. It could be that wonderful feeling in your torso, in your belly, or your heart of having contributed to somebody, or the feeling of being so on task, living your purpose, being so solid, so inspired by your life. What are you feeling? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are you saying to yourself? What are your clients, loved ones, and colleagues saying to you and about you? What are you doing and what are you experiencing that would prove to you that you had achieved these outcomes for the course? So, in a moment, you're going to pause and you're going to write at least 3 outcomes with evidence. And of course, you can also go back on this video and repeat that if you didn't get all that down, or if you want to hear it again. I highly encourage you to use all this material as often as possible. In the next screencast, I'll explain how to get the most out of this course, how it's structured, and how to use the site. But what's most important now is that you go and get to those outcomes. So stop now, and before you go any further, write down only 3 outcomes with all of the evidence. And remember to have them stated in the positive, to have it be measurable, to have it be achievable, to have it be responsible, and have it be set in time.